Hey folks, I want to give a shout out to Bad Habit. They are the official Slam Series sponsor for the 2025 Autumn Oaks Warm-Up Slams. If you need any hunting supplies, be sure to check out Bad Habit Hunting Supply.
On today's episode, we'll introduce a new Feist breed, the American Feist, with special guest Vance Plante. Stay with us.
You're listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast, celebrating hunting dog heritage, competition, and community. United Kennel Club has been the hunting dog sports home for coon hounds, beagles, retrievers, pointers, cur, feist, and more for over 125 years.
Hey, welcome folks to the Hunting Ops Podcast. I'm Alan Gingrich, Director of Hunting Ops at United Kennel Club, and thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about UKC's Feist programs and introduce our newest breed, the American Feist. And with me today is special guest Mr. Vance Plante. Vance, welcome this morning.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Wonderful.
Good. You're up in what? Lake Luzerne, New York, right? Northern part of New York.
Southern Adirondack Mountains. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hey, I got you on. Today we're going to talk about the American Feist, and you've also formed an association. So technically, you're going to always be known kind of as the founder of the American Feist Association. But before we get to that, let's just talk about you just for a second. Brief history and your history with Feist dogs. What is that looking like?
Had hunting dogs my whole life. Switched to Feist in 2018 before I retired and hunted them and was active. I go to a lot of hunts, and mostly I was involved with the United Feist Association until we decided to start this project.
Yeah, and that's been for a good number of years. You got a little place in Kentucky, a little down close to LBL, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You get down there where all the squirrels live down there in Kentucky.
Yeah, we get snowed in about 6 months.
Yeah. What does your hunting season look like in New York, upper northern New York?
Yeah, it's beautiful in September and October. It's beautiful. Then it starts getting gnarly by Thanksgiving, and you can still hunt if you don't get deep snow until the deep snow comes in December, and the season runs through February. Yeah. The last 4 to 5 years, I spent most of my winter in Kentucky, southwestern Kentucky.
Yeah. Yep. You and your wife Anna spent a lot of time both in the squirrel worlds hunting these little feists, and that's where I met you guys, is through the feist. But hey, let's get right with it here. I've been very excited about this. I know you've been working on this idea for a while and presented it to United Kennel Club. And honestly, to begin with, I thought, I just don't know that we would do this. But, considering everything and what it was, we got her done. And I'm very excited about it. I think, I guess, what are your thoughts on it? What's the purpose? I want to hear the purpose that you had in mind for this.
The purpose is the mountain feist have a pretty rigid standard. Rigid, good standard, good folks, a rigid standard. The training feist have a pretty rigid standard, and it got tougher in the last year. So technically, this idea had been floating around for a couple of years, and I'd mentioned it to you a couple of years ago, and a couple other guys, and then it kind of was petered out. But when the 87.5% came in, a lot of dogs weren't fitting the mold of either the mountain feist or the training feist. Good dogs, but they didn't quite fit it. And some of the dogs probably got into both programs that maybe didn't quite fit their model. And they ended up in. So this will give an avenue for those dogs, which there's a significant number of them, to participate in the hunts and the shows and get their dogs, as registered feist.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. We have a lot of dogs that don't quite meet those standards, and I think this will actually help them probably. Creating this and kind of give them their own lane. We're talking about the mountain feist and the training feist, and give more open the programs to more feisty type little squirrel dogs.
Correct.
So let's talk about this. How do you think this will, mention a little bit, what are your thoughts on how it'll affect the mountain feist or training feist associations or their programs or associations?
I do not want anything to hurt either one of them. I'm friends with both groups. I was heavily involved with the training feist since 2019, and the mountain feist guys, I got a lot of buds there I harass and tease. So it's not to hurt either one of their programs. I think it's going to give each a specific lane. The mountain feist will have their lane. The training feist will have their lane. We'll have our lane, and hopefully we'll have joint events in the future. I think it's going to make it easier for the other two organizations. They won't have to say no so often. They can say, hey, read the breed standard. Your dog meets the breed standard of that breed. Get it signed up. There will be less. There will be less no's,
Yep.
more yeses.
If it, yeah, and I agree 100%. If it doesn't fit their model, or for a mountain feist or training feist, there might be a place for them. Good chance there's going to be a place for them, and that's going to be the American Feist category.
Correct.
Yeah. So, hey, so mentioned briefly in the onset here that you also formed an American Feist Association. Tell us what that looks like.
The American Feist Association, we have a board of 5 people. There's myself as the president, Doug Marlowe from Illinois as vice president, Jamie McCarson from Tennessee, secretary treasurer, Keith Peoples from North Carolina is a board member, Casey Slyman from Tennessee is a board member, and Albert Brownlee from way up in Mississippi is our membership chairman. So it's spread fairly well across the country. One of the finest groups of men I could work with. I mean, it's positive. We're focused on a certain direction, and that's where we're headed. Top flight guys.
Yeah. I obviously know you. I know Marlowe. I've met Mr. Peoples, Keith Peoples, just a class guy from North Carolina is where he's from. He was at the World Hunt here a year or two ago is where I first met him. But yeah, and then Mr. Brownlee in Mississippi, you said. I have not met him, but I've heard the name, so hey, that's good. And I think you feel pretty good about it. Your association had been talking about this for a while before it got introduced, and I'd say they did a pretty good job of kind of keeping the information to themselves, and you never heard much about it. I was kind of surprised, but they did a good job. So that really speaks a lot for those involved in putting this all together. I've got in my notes here a little bit. I'm looking at just make sure we cover everything. One of the ideas that you had talked about or mentioned to me, you really want this to be an association that really is spread out maybe a little bit more and reaching areas. You mentioned the Carolinas and down south and such. I love that.
Yeah. Michigan, we've had some offers to host something in the northern Indiana, the Michigan area. I think we'll have some sort of organized event in the Carolinas. Then, of course, there'll be something in probably Illinois or Kentucky, and that's in the future. We're really focused on the breed association part of it right now and making sure the dogs are registered and people have accurate information. That's our primary focus at this moment.
Yep, and we're going to talk about some of those, try to give a little more information on how to get their dogs registered for this new breed and this and that, and the type of dogs that are going to be eligible for it. And we'll get to that in a minute. But as far as your association, I'm sure just like the other associations, they have their annual association breed days or whatever, and I'm sure you're going to have something like that as well, right?
Correct. We're not sure on the format. We'll probably have to go over some of that with UKC. We want to do things a little different, and that'll be President's Day weekend in Kentucky this year. And we want to be able to move it annually. It comes down to the judges, the guides, and the facility. But that's the goal. That'll be President's Day weekend in February in Kentucky this year. And we'll see. We're not quite sure on the format. We're discussing it. We'll probably get some little consult with the head of hunting ops from UKC and see where we go.
Yeah. I guess you're talking about me, so you gotta go to me.
Yeah.
I try to be easy to work with. I love new things and kind of getting outside the box sometimes, and I think the other thing that I'm excited that I really feel like this will do is allow or help some growth in the Feist programs. Our UKC's mother programs is obviously coon hounds. We have a huge coon hound program. This will never be anything like it. Our beagle program's pretty good, but I think with this, it just has the potential to grow even bigger. So I'm excited about that, and seeing more dogs. And really, I think it's important to also note that in the past there was a time when the standards and requirements for registering a mountain feist or treeing feist were broader, so to speak. And it allowed some dogs to come in that by today's standards would not be eligible anymore, would not meet those requirements. Would that be true?
I believe that's true because in the treeing feist, you can have one non-treeing feist in the third generation, so one great grandparent. And a lot of these folks were regional guys, and they kind of tracked their own dogs, and some of them didn't register. And this will give those guys an opportunity to get in.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and you're exactly right. It now gives them this other lane here, I guess, so to speak. But so let's talk about eligibility for registration here, Vance. Height and weight requirements. What does that look like?
Height and weight. So there's no weight requirement for any of the Feist. For registration, and we kind of took the lead from UKC with their Beagle program and with what they did with the Mountain Feist in 2015. So a dog can be registered up to 20 inches tall for breeding purposes only, period. And we kind of took the cue from UKC because it was successful at the Beagle program and the Mountain Feist when they separated in 2015. But you cannot hunt or show that dog. It's 18 or less. So it's fair to the other two groups. And that may sunset at some time, and I'm sure it will.
Yeah, you mentioned at one time the Mountain Feist was allowed to be up to 20 inches tall, and actually there were dogs registered like that and competing like that. And what some folks may not even realize or may have forgotten about is some of those dogs that were registered while that was still a criteria are get a pass when it comes to the 18-inch criteria as far as at a hunt right now still.
One of the most prolific dogs, and I'm not a Mountain Feist guy, was Jude's Redman.
Yep.
If that dog, he placed in multiple world hunts.
Yep.
He was over 18 inches tall. I'm not, selling anything for their kennel, but that dog was probably 19 and a half inches tall, I'm guessing. And that dog was prolific. He produced a world champion. He produced 2 dogs of the year. He placed multiple times in the UKC World Hunt and Dog of the Year. That dog really helped the Mountain Feist, and some of his pups were registered as train Feist. Jude's Cope was Dog of the Year, one of the finest dogs I'd ever been to the woods with, and he was registered as a train Feist. And he won the World Hunt and Dog of the Year.
Yep.
There's some science behind this and some history, and now they can't hunt up to the 20 inches, but they can be registered if you have that dog you think is worth breeding down in size. It gives you an option. You don't have to do it.
Yeah, good dog to use as an example there. Perfect dog to use is that, and he was tall. He was registered when the criteria wasn't 18 inches. So that dog could still be entered today, even though he's a little over 18 inches. He could still enter a hunt today.
Yeah, he's old now.
Yeah,
he's old,
but
he beat me in the semifinals of the World Hunt.
Yeah, but number 2, here's another good example of why take a dog like that just because it's over height standard out of the breeding pool or out of the gene pool that has the ability to pass on good traits, because if bred to the right females can absolutely produce dogs that are well within the height standard still. Good dog to use as an example.
Yeah, he was significant, I think.
And why take that dog out of the gene pool? And that's your answer, I think, to those that have question about why would you even register a dog, that is over 18 inches. And I would agree with the argument or the debate that you're going to make that, hey, they stand to maybe, create genetics that might create taller dogs. And that's probably true, but not always. Just because they're a taller dog doesn't mean if bred to the right females, the right crosses, they're going to produce a dog that's going to be well within height standards.
Correct. And the serious guys, they work on that. The guys that got smaller dogs are trying to breed a little height into them for whatever reason they choose. And the guys that have dogs that are 18-ish are always really cognizant to keep that dog under 18. You don't want to raise a dog for 2 years and have it be over 18 inches defeating the purpose.
Hey, I'm going to just go a little bit into the requirements, the other requirements for single registration for an American Feist. We'll get to this a little bit later too, but the next thing I want to talk about is what is required as far as proof of lineage, unknowns or crossbreds, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So the American Feist is to register it as single registration, they must complete the UKC application for single registration, provide a 3-generation pedigree if available. 3 color photographs of the dog, 1 from each side of the dog, so 2 pictures, 1 of each side, and then 1 from the front. So 3 pictures there, kind of at eye level. One of the things pictures can be very deceiving as far as height and size of a dog. Really, so we require them to take them at eye level. And then number 4 it says the dog may be a cross between UKC recognized Feist breeds, and what that means is if it's a half mountain Feist, half treeing Feist, it will be eligible for this. Obviously, there's other crosses that will be as well, but it'll be eligible for this for the American Feist. But so that's the basic requirements. Now, if you don't have a 3-generation pedigree, you don't have to provide that. But let's talk a little bit more about that lineage and crossbreds and what is acceptable here.
A dog that looks like follows the standard, which is clearly outlined. They have to follow the standard. There's about 8 or 9 disqualifying faults. And so if a dog does have unknown ancestry, then you can single register it without any lineage. But be honest about the lineage. If in the 2nd generation it was the bird dog, then write it. So people have, the consumer has an option to say, hey, I want a little of that. Or if in one of the generations there was a black and tan coon hound, then be honest about it. There's no penalty for being honest. We're moving it forward, and this is ground zero for the single registration. It'll probably change over time, maybe not in my time or your time, but maybe the requirements will change just like they have with the other 2 breeds. But you're starting from ground zero. Anybody can get in as long as their dog meets the breed standard. There's no judgment on what the dog's past was or what the history is with the dog. It's getting the dogs into the program and starting from ground zero and being honest about it. If old so-and-so was a quarter black and tan and you got it in the pedigree, write it. And it gives people an option.
Yeah, and we're actually not going to have anything to write in a pedigree anymore. This is just if you have a pedigree of that side of the dog, that's what you provide a copy of.
Pedigree, excuse me.
But no, and that's exactly right. Obviously it has to meet the height requirements and this and that, as far as that. One of the things that's on the new application that wasn't on before, and this is now going to apply to all Feist, treeing Feist, mountain Feist, and the American Feist. It is going to ask a question: is this dog over 18 inches tall? And if yes, how tall at the withers? That they would have to then write in. So something that's a little over 18 inches, UKC is going to accept it. But if the dog's 20 plus inches, then it's probably, we also have the treeing curs, at some point, these dogs may better fit the treeing cur than they will an American Feist, So I feel like squirrel dogs, for the most part, UKC is pretty much going to have a home for them somewhere.
For most, you won't have a home for everything because it's a squirrel dog. It does not make it a Feist.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I might have a black and tan coon hound that runs rabbits, but it does not make it a beagle.
That's exactly good point.
So there are some dogs that are definitely not going to fit the requirement under the UKC standard. I think all 3 of the standards are fair, and I think if you look back at the treeing Feist standard, those dogs are getting a little more uniform in their size, their shape, and their look. You look at the World Show the last several years; they have really, the treeing Feist have improved. It's improved, and the mountain Feist is crisper. So this will give everybody a shot to get in, and I'm sure at some point it'll change. It may not be by me, but it may be by somebody else.
Yeah, and I think really there's going to be you're going to see the difference in all 3 of them. Really, okay, for some folks, it used to be the same. It used to be that way for me. It was hard for me to tell the difference between a mountain Feist and a treeing Feist. But a mountain Feist that meets its standards as it should, and a treeing Feist, I can now easily tell the difference by looking at.
Right.
For sure. So I think also the American Feist is also going to be a feisty looking little dog in the end, but it's not going to look like them necessarily.
No, I don't think so. I think it'll look, maybe have a hair more ear on some of them, but they can have prickly ears. We didn't focus on the ears in the breed standard. And I think it'll kind of be like maybe a mix between the 2 with a little more, I think they'll be more closer to the 17-inch mark overall as they go on.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add as far as lineage goes when it comes to registration? So again, we mentioned that unknown lineage is okay so long as they meet the requirements as far as looks goes.
And if a dog is, say, registered as a treeing Feist, and you feel it doesn't really meet the treeing Feist standard, it meets this standard, UKC is going to have a form to fill out to switch it to the American Feist. Or if you have a mountain Feist that really, you raised a pup and it does not really meet the standard or the criteria for mountain Feist anymore, you have a home to come to. You can come to the American Feist program.
We'll cover that a little bit. That's what we call a breed transfer. We'll cover that here in just a little bit, go a little more into depth in that. Let's talk, Vance, let's talk about what events they're going to be eligible for. That's just all UKC Feist events, period.
It's all UKC Feist, the HTX. If they're 18 or less, the shows and the hunts. So they're in. As of right now, they're in.
World Hunt, our World Hunt Dog of the Year. Eligible immediately. You get, this is going, when this comes out this fall season, the events start kicking up. Get your dog registered. Your dog's going to be eligible to compete and eligible for the Dog of the Year. You're going to have only a half year start this first year here for it, but if you can get up there, I haven't looked at the standings here just very recently to see how many cast wins it's going to take to get in the top 7 of the standings to get in the national runoff, but there's obviously probably some good dogs that are going to make that pretty interesting here still this year, I'd say.
I think there is.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be some American Feist in the mix. The Training Feist have dominated it the last several years, but it's split. There was several Mountain Feists in it every year. There's at least a few. So, yeah, hopefully they'll get in the mix this year. It may not be this year, maybe next year.
Yeah.
But hopefully they get in the mix.
Yep. So once the dogs register, they're going to be eligible to compete in all UKC Feist events.
With Eukanuba, stamina is the one difference I'm seeing. When I'm running hair up north, my dogs will put on 10, 12, 15 miles of solid running, and they just don't tire as easily or as quickly. Oftentimes, my work schedule does not allow me to have the desired physical conditioning on my dogs, but even then, as many as 25 or more miles a day of hard running is just another day in the office. To me, it's been apparent Eukanuba's 30-20 sport formula is making that difference. Eukanuba, the official performance dog nutrition partner of UKC.
Showing. Let's talk about showing. Obviously, there's a breed standard now that's going to be posted on the UKC website and everything. So right now we have in the rule book, we have the Training Feist standard and the Mountain Feist standard. And the American Feist standard is also going to be added to that. It may not be there yet, but it will here eventually. We already have the standard that you have submitted to us, and UKC their breed committee has accepted it, and but we'll get that put together and posted as well, so they'll be able to see that. So they will be able to show as well in all of the shows there. DQs in American Feist. So every breed of dog has a set of DQs in their standard. There's 3 different types of faults. There's just a fault. If something says this is preferred or not allowed or whatever, that's considered a fault. So a fault you basically measure in the sense of, if you're judging a dog, how it will affect a working dog and how much it will affect it, and that's the degree that you penalize this dog or that you consider this fault. That's just a general fault. Another fault is an eliminating fault. What's an example of one? A dog that is too tall. It will just eliminate the dog from the show.
That event on that day.
Yep, on that day. It's just not going to be eligible for any award that day or in this show. That's an eliminating fault. You don't do anything beyond it. Then the other fault is a disqualifying fault. The difference between with a disqualifying fault is if a judge in a show finds a dog to have a disqualifying fault, they will write this fault up and report it to UKC. And this dog will then be blocked from being able to compete in any further shows or get a show champion degree with a disqualifying fault. One of those would be, like you mentioned, there's several, and we'll go over them as they apply for the American Feist. That would be an overbite or an underbite. Let me see here. Eliminating fault is what I wrote down here again is an eliminating fault is a fault serious enough that it eliminates the dog from obtaining any awards in a bench show or confirmation event. Dogs under 12 inches or over 18 inches would be considered an eliminating fault. But then DQs here. So most of these DQs are very standard for all breeds of dogs, like viciousness or extreme shyness, unilateral or bilateral crypt orchid, albinism, deafness, blindness, overshot, undershot bites. Those are all very standard in all breeds of dogs. But a couple here for the American Feist is long or shaggy coat is one that the American Feist has added. Can you speak on that just briefly?
Yeah, the longer the shaggy coat, if you go back to the history of the Feist, which everybody goes back to, and some of it varies, they weren't longer shaggy coated dog. They were dogs from European descent that were terrier type dogs. And some of them had maybe a little bit of a wire coat, which the Mountain Feist will allow, but to keep out the herding dogs and whatever else somebody might conjure up in their head, no longer shaggy coat.
Yep. Pink nose.
Yep, the pink nose was to keep out. A lot of fights do have bird dog heritage, but the pink nose was to keep out the pit bulls. And there's a list of dogs that have the pink nose. I mean, there was some time put into these standards to keep out the pit bulls, the some of the bird dogs that have pink nose, heavy influence. That was the main reason.
Yep. Some breeders are going to know this. Some folks are going to know this, but a pink nose on a dog is not inherently bad, but it sometimes indicates an underlying health issue as well, or a change in pigmentations. And I don't know. Hey, you see that sometimes in other breeds of dogs too. But that would be a disqualifying fault. A pink nose. Watch eyes is another one. Watch eyes. A watch eye is for folks that don't know. It's often called a whale eye, maybe, or a half moon eye, where a dog's showing an eye, and often it's a form of body language or an expression that indicates fear or stress or anxiety or discomfort of sorts. And it's just kind of a dog that is just kind of probably not the type. I think what you're getting at is you want a dog that is comfortable dog, or is not edgy and has those anxiety issues and things like that.
Right. And a watch eye, also the old phrase that used to be in the coonhounds back in the 70s and 80s, and you'd see it where a dog would have two completely different colored eyes, like a blue eye and a brown eye.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of folklore, but with folklore, there was some truth to that, where you'd see blue eyed. In the coonhounds, it's pretty much gone away over the last 20, 30, 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the watch eye, light eyes are another one. If they're not amber or darker, that's a disqualifying.
Yeah. In other words, a blue eye would be a disqualifying fault.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's usually, that comes with a lot of herding dogs also.
Yeah. The blue eye is definitely can be lead to blindness and things like that. And that's proven in dogs.
Yes.
And it's just to kind of keep that stuff out of the gene pool, basically, is what it amounts to.
Yep.
The other one that is here is merle color. Merle color in dogs. Speak on that a little bit.
Merle coloring in dogs. This and the 20-inch height have been the two things that have had the most discussion on the pages. Merle comes in only certain breeds of dogs. If you follow the Feist history and you go back to when they came here, well, the Australian Shepherd wasn't around then. A good share of your bird dogs weren't even registered by a registry until the early 1900s. And so the Merle color was to keep out heavy influence of herding dogs, mostly catch dogs like your Catahoulas and your bird some of your bird dogs. There might be a few of them that have a little Merle coloring, but mostly like your Aussie Shepherds, your Border Collies, any of those dogs. And there's a ton of things associated with the Merle coloring. I mean, I've been reading so much on it because folks have been messaging me. It's nothing against a breeder or anything anybody else does, but you really got to read on the Merle coloring and where it comes from and the effects of Merle coloring.
And you're exactly right. There's a thing called single Merle dogs, as well as double Merles, where two of those Merle genes are present, and the double is extremely. It comes with a lot of consequences. Oftentimes, double Merles are definitely at a higher risk for deafness and blindness and other health problems. So it's the reason for this again is just to have a healthier breed.
To have a healthier breed. And then I woke up real early Sunday and I had some calls on the Merle color and some messages. And then I started reading on it even more. And the gene can be hidden, and you can only really, like, if you don't DNA them or whatever, have a gene test done. There's just a lot with it. If that's what the route they choose to go, there's a place for them. Yeah. There's other registries. There's whatever. It's not a knock on anybody. It's just before you criticize it, take 30 minutes and read on the Merle coloring and the Merle gene. And I had a Catahoula that was Merle. The dog died by the time it was a little over 9 years old from health issues.
Yeah.
That's on the Merle. Those are the disqualifying faults. And a dog should not be registered if it has any of them. It cannot be registered. Those are visible faults, and the dog should not be registered. Are some going to slip through because UKC gets a picture and doesn't show that Vance Plante did it in the sunlight and the dog had light eyes. Yeah, but they got to live with themselves. You can't legislate morality and honesty. So, I think people are going to follow this and say, hey, it's a pretty good breed standard. Nothing is perfect. And they're going to say, hey, man, I'm going to try to do my best to follow it. And then if you end up at an event with a blue-eyed, shaggy-coated, Merle-colored dog, well, you'll be known for what you did, right?
Yeah. Well, that kind of goes, in the difference, how DQs work in shows versus hunts or whatever. We're not going to have anybody out there, DQ police out there looking for a dog behind the barn that doesn't meet a standard. They will and should get caught if they show them in the shows. And we don't want to put a champion title on a dog that does not meet these requirements, obviously, in a show title dog. But as far as the registration, you're right. That's why we require pictures, and there's certain things that we will see in the registration process, like a Merle colored dog. We won't accept it. Or UKC won't accept it. And a lot of times you can't tell by the eye color or anything like that. That's why we rely on bench show judges and things like that. And underbites, overbites, okay. Somebody that knows what a serious underbite or overbite looks like will be able to tell just by looking at the dog. Whereas there's a lot of people that won't be able to do that, but as well as just the cryptorchidness and things like that, obviously would be able to tell. But hey, you mentioned a good thing. We also need to rely on ethical breeding standards and ethical breeders to do breeding justice and weed out those DQs in their genetic programs.
And historically, that's happened.
Yeah.
Like I go back to the late 70s, early 80s with the coon hounds, and you don't see those when the blue ticks and the walker split in 45 or 46. You could hardly tell some of those dogs apart, even in the 70s and 80s. And really, breeders really got on it through that period of time. And if you go to a coon hound event, you know what a treeing walker is. For the most part, you'll know what an English is. They can have several different color combinations, or a plot, or a red bone, or a black-Italian. The breeders did themselves justice. And really what carried that through for the coon hounds, a lot of hunters didn't care about the conformation or the look of a dog. It was the show folks that kind of dragged those standards along. Yeah. And you can really clearly identify those dogs.
Hey, you mentioned the coon hounds, and I want to add this, Vance, for our listeners. In our coon hound programs, it was until 2015 when we introduced the XBred program. And honestly, I will say this, UKC was looking at potentially adding an XBred to the Feist program. And then you kind of came along and said, hey, let's consider doing this instead. And that's kind of where this came from. But the XBred program, X denotes two things in coon hounds. Number one is unknown lineage, unknown heritage or lineage, or number two, it may be a crossbred of whether it's whatever that cross is. And we accepted it, and there was a lot of that has always went on where coon hound breeders were crossbreeding and things like that, breeding walkers, the blue ticks, and all the different breeds. Some of the pups that might have looked like, and I'll use an example of a solid colored dog. A red bone is always a good example because often when you crossbreed, a solid color becomes dominant a lot of times. So I could breed a red bone to a treeing walker and have 6 puppies, and there's a good chance 4 of them are going to be solid red. They might have tips of white on their toes or maybe on their chest a little bit or things like that. What in the old days, what folks would do when they did that, they would take that and single register that dog as a red bone with unknown hair or unknown lineage. And then it got bred if it met the standards and everything that it did, or that and it did by its looks, it looked like a red bone. It got registered as a red bone coonhound. When guess what? It was technically a half breed. It was half walker and half red bone. You might not have known that until you started breeding this dog and wonder, hey, where's these coming? There's a skunk in the wood pile here somewhere. Where's these tricolors coming from? But that would happen. But what the X did, the X bred program did, and that will be similar to this, the American Feist, is now the breeders are putting on exactly what they are. Half of it is a treeing walker, and the other half of the pedigree is a red bone. And that's what we then use, and it has worked awesome.
And I'm sure there were doubters and
Yep.
and stuff. And I kind of keep track still from my old coon hunting days and stuff. And I look at the major hunts, what breeds of dogs are in them. And really the XBred and the coon hounds, it's not a huge amount. I think I figured it up. It was like in the Tournament of Champions, I think it was less than 1%.
Yeah.
I think when I figured it up,
Yeah.
there was out of the 1,500 dogs, I think it was, don't quote me, less than 20. And so it was such a minute percentage.
Yeah.
And so with this, a lot of folks didn't really like the thought of the XBred because there's some guys that have bred their dogs for a long time, and they felt, hey, to have to go 3 generations to improve it, to get it into into the Mountain Feist or the Treeing Feist gene pool, they weren't buying it. It's, I travel a bit, and folks just didn't want it. So I think the American Feist gives you an avenue. It gives everybody a ground zero starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what everybody does with it from here on out.
Yeah.
If you're ethical and you're straightforward, I think this can be a big portion of the Feist program.
Yeah. But the one similarity that I was bringing out is with this American Feist is just list what it is. If you have a pedigree on what it is, just list it. And it just list it. And there's don't leave nothing to question, I guess. And it's fine. It will be accepted if the dog meets the standards as far as looks and all that goes. But hey, mention breed standard or breed transfers. Dogs that met requirements for Mountain Feist or Treeing Feist at one time, we mentioned that in the onset. There's some of those that would not meet their standards today, and those dogs, I guess what is a breed transfer? First of all, a dog that is registered as a Treeing Feist or a Mountain Feist, or for any, may be eligible to transfer to an American Feist. And we have it in coon hounds while we're talking about that. You take 2 different breeds, half and half. You keep breeding them to just one or the other, just to keep breeding red bone. After the 3rd generation, these puppies are now eligible to transfer to be registered as a red bone again. And the same is true here. We have a breed transfers where some of these dogs, and it's not so much the lineage thing as if registered, I guess, as a Mountain Feist or Treeing Feist, and are registered today, don't really meet those standards and would better fit in the American Feist standard. We will consider a breed transfer for those dogs.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, and it'll give continuity to both the other guys.
Yep. So
both the other breeds will have continuity.
Yep, and that's and when they do that, there's an application that they fill out for a breed transfer. They have to request it from UKC. We will send that to them. They fill it out and give us all the information, what breed the dog is, this and that, and that they want to transfer it over to an American Feist or an application for such. And then if they do that, the one thing that comes up, titles that a dog already has earned will in fact transfer with the dog, whether it's a hunt title. Now we're talking about Feist hunt titles or Feist show titles, HTX. Now, if a dog has a confirmation title, confirmation in UKC is where they show against the lap dogs and other dogs like that, not in bench shows. Those titles will not carry over, but there's nobody showing Feist in confirmation. But just so folks know, those titles would not. But any hunt titles or show titles would transfer over to the other breed.
They're cast wins also.
Cast wins also. Yep, that would carry over. So that is an option, and the cost for that is the same as it would be to transfer ownership of a dog, whatever that cost is. Like right now, it's basically $30 for a 3-generation pedigree. So anything you want to add to that breed transfer stuff?
No, but on the registration, the breed transfer stuff, I think it'll be a great avenue, and I think it'll help both the Mountain Feist and the Treeing Feist clean up where they're going. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the questions come up from one of the folks was, if I breed 2 Treeing Feists and the dogs come out, they get confused. If I breed 2 Treeing Feists and a dog comes out looking like each one of them, once they're litter registered, they're in that breed. They may not do well in a confirmation, but they're in that breed. As the dog gets older, and if you think, hey, it really fits the standard of say it was Mountain Feist, because their breed standard is pretty rigid. So say it was two Mountain Feists were bred, they're litter registered Mountain Feist, and one comes out with floppy ears. Well, that person will have an option to transfer it to the American Feist, and I think you're going to allow them to transfer it to the Treeing Feist if they choose to, right?
Yeah.
So they'll be able to transfer be able to pick the lane they want to go into. Hey, I want to go in the Treeing Feist lane, or I want to go in the American Feist lane. a lot of confusion comes up is the litter. Once your dog is litter registered, it's litter registered. There's not somebody that's going to go to your house and say that dog can't compete at that level. If a dog has floppy ears and it's a mountain feist, it's not going to do very well in the shows, and you'll have an option to transfer it.
Yeah.
So this just clears up. I think the whole thing clears up a lot of things for a lot of people.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. You're exactly right. A good point to bring up there. Hey, the one thing I want to get in just a little bit while we're talking about breed transfers, I mentioned it in for an American Feist, a crossbred dog may be a cross between two UKC recognized Feist breeds. And obviously, that would be a treeing Feist and a mountain Feist. Those two crossbred dogs could be registered as an American Feist, but they can we're also eligible to be registered as a treeing Feist by their requirements. So want to make it clear that folks basically now have the option to a cross between a mountain and a treeing Feist. They have the option to register it as an American Feist, or they might also choose to register it as a treeing Feist. That's their option.
And that's a good option.
Yeah. That's one of the things that the treeing Feist still had in their as an option. They would accept those as a treeing Feist, and that won't change. However, now they have an option to register it as a treeing Feist or an American Feist. That's up to the owner how they want to read. But once the dog's registered as such, that's where it's going to stay. In other words, somebody has a mountain Feist, treeing Feist cross, and it gets registered as a treeing Feist. I buy this dog. I'm the new owner. I can't. UKC is not going to accept a breed transfer for this dog. It was registered as a treeing Feist, and that's it. It's not the same as what we were talking about earlier.
Right.
You can do that at one time, and that's it. That's where it's going to stay. Predictions, expectations. What are your thoughts on this?
I always have pretty high expectations, but once folks see the podcast, we've been posting stuff periodically on the breed standards and stuff, so people can ease into it. And I don't know. I don't like to predict things. I think the expectation is it's going to add dogs to the program, and that should be all three of the groups host: the American Feist, the treeing Feist, and the mountain Feist. And I think people keep their powder dry. You hear these gloom and doom and these things. Well, everything starts from somewhere. And I remember when I was involved heavily with the treeing Feist, it's almost the same folks that were the naysayers with the United Treeing Feist that are the naysayers now. And you know what? The majority of those folks, probably all of those folks, and it's not that many, maybe a half a dozen, they never even registered a dog, a treeing Feist, or a UKC mountain Feist, or came to an event. And it's the same few that went on that bandwagon, and the treeing Feist have a successful program with a successful group of folks. And I'm sure when the mountain Feist separated, they had the same issue, and they got a really good group of folks and a successful program. So folks, take a breath, give us a chance, and give us a shot. And I think our expectation is it'll improve numbers at the events.
Yeah. And it can be a little discouraging to see some of that on social media sites, and some people just kind of blowing off steam and I don't know, can kind of say anything they want to, and it's unfortunate. Sometimes they'll get a few, maybe, I don't know, I'm just going to call it naive people that don't really know better, and they think this is happening, and half of it is just a bunch of hogwash, or whatever. But it is what it is. Pot stirs is what that is. Anyways, yeah, and I agree. I think it has the potential to really grow our programs and be a good thing. Be a good thing, and it creates an opportunity for more squirrel dogs to be able to be registered and compete in our events.
Hey, Alan, I don't know if you've been messing around with this new Houndsman Advantage app at all, but I've been playing with it some, and it has some really cool features on it. One, it has the interactive scorecard view where you can assign strike and tree points at the touch of a button, and it automatically totals your scores after each set of points are scored and valued.
Yeah, no, I like it as well. Some of the features that I like is that you can access the rules and that it comes with a search function to easily find any specific rule. Also like that there's a place for your dog's registration numbers, and you can store pictures of your easy entry cards. I like that you can track two dogs' performances when out pleasure hunting. You'll find some analytics on your dogs. You can record their accuracy, win percentages, and a whole lot of things like that.
no more lying here on this app. The last thing about the scorecard I'll talk about is it has the summary view as well, where you can see the total points you have and the pending points that you have, along with tree timers for each dog. So it's going to come in handy for judges as well. So check it all out on the new Houndsman Advantage app.
Hey, let's talk about registration. How do these folks register their dogs? Single register, a dog that is not litter registered out of a UKC, 2 UKC parents, they have to be single registered. So how do folks go on and single register? 2 different ways. You can do it by filling out a form and mailing it in, or a new way is to go onto UKC's website and do it online. That's probably the quickest and the best way to do it. And before you do it, you want to do a couple things that we've already talked about. Take a picture of your pedigrees that you have on the dog you're wanting to register. Have that in your phone. It's mobile friendly, or you can do it on your desktop. And also have your 3 photos ready. Now, the photos you can actually take, if you're doing it with a phone, you can take the photos while you're doing the process of registering. But if you're doing it on a laptop or a desktop, you'd want to have those photos taken and then pull them into the application. So I kind of wrote up a little thing here, and I hope for folks that want to do that, if they take this segment and maybe listen to it, I'm going to try to walk you through step by step here, Vance, if I may, and go through this a little bit. So you're going to go on to ukcdogs.com, and you're going to choose the registration tab. You're going to find there's a section for registration, hunting ops, all breed sports, inside UKC, etc. Choose registration. That's where you want to go. Hit that tab. Click onto that link. There's going to be a search bar to search by breed of dog to take you to the application form for Feist breeds. Type in Feist and just type in Feist there, and then the Feist app's going to come up, and it's going to be the same application for Mountain Feist, Treating Feist, and now the American Feist. On that form, it's going to have the requirements for each one, as separate requirements for American Feist, very clearly noted. The requirements for a Mountain Feist that is slightly different than the American, and then same thing for the Treating Feist that is most of the same things, but it might have something a little bit different. So you want to look at that. And the form it's also going to ask you for the sire and the dam if available. And if they're UKC registered, you just put the UKC number in of that sire and the dam. If not, you just put NA there or put nothing there. Then on the front page, you have different package options. The most common is obviously the 3-generation pedigree that comes with a registration or a certificate. And that's currently the fee for that is $30 for that. And you can upgrade it to a 4-generation for $4 more, and there's others. You'll see all the options there. You can pay with a credit card or send a check with that. Also with that, it asks for the dog's name. I mentioned it's going to ask for what breed of dog is. You check American Feist on there. The color of the dog. You need to have a color on there. Check the sex. Which sex it is, date of birth, and then I mentioned the size. It asks is this dog over 18 inches, and you no or yes, and if yes, give us an approximate height of the dog. You measure the dog at the height of the withers, from the ground to the height of the withers. There is where you measure the dog. It's going to ask if the dog is tattooed, microchipped. Most obviously aren't. Spayed or neutered, and if yes, you mark those. It also asks for if you know the registered owner at the time of breeding. If you do, put that information in there. If you don't, just put NA or unknown or nothing. And that's fine. There's 30 spaces on there, 30 blocks to give the dog a name. You can't just call the dog, give it one name in UKC, like Candy. If you just put one name in it, it's going to default it to where UKC would give the dog, name the dog as Gingrich's Candy. Can't just be Candy, but they will automatically default using the owner's last name to put in front of the dog's name if you do that. It won't hold up the process or anything. We're just going to put your last name in front of it. So a dog's got to have at least 2 names. And then it's going to ask for the sole signatory. Sole signatory person here is the first owner of a dog. So when it asks for a sole signatory, sole is the first owner. Now, UKC allows a dog to have up to 4 different owners. So you have your first owner and then 3 successors. So if you have any additional owners, successors, there's a second form that comes with that asks for successor 1. That's the first, second owner, or successor 2 or successor 3. Those are additional owners. Successors are. So that's a form that's there that you can print off, fill out, and send in. But I mentioned the online thing that you can also do, and that's the better way to get them done. UKC at the moment, they try to be within 10 to 14 business days out of processing online registrations. So for online registration, click onto the green bar that says when you pull up the registration, do the search for Feist. Right there, you're going to see a little green bar that says single register my dog online. That's the button that you're going to click onto. And here are the steps for that. On page 1, when you open it up, it's going to ask for all the owner information. Any box that has a red star is a required field that you have to fill in. It won't allow you to go on to the next step until you've filled that required field out. On this page, it also asks if you have a successor. I just talked about that with you can have up to 3 additional owners and 4 total for a dog. If you have no successors, just simply X that part out and it will go away, and then click next. That's page 1. Now you're up to page 2. This is where you're going to give your dog information. It's going to ask you for the breed, the sex, the name. That must be something other than Chili. I'm using my dog as a name. If I just put in Chili, UKC is going to name the dog Gingrich's Chili, and that'll be the default. You'll also see on this page an option for a TL number. A TL number is a temporary listing that is kind of universal for most of UKC's breeds. Keep in mind, UKC registers nearly 300 different breeds. So a TL number does not apply for most of our hunting program dogs like beagles or squirrel dogs or coon hounds, or it applies to conformation shows. So don't worry about this TL number. That's nothing for you. If the dog has a tattoo or microchip, name that. You'll see that's not a required field. Leave those alone if you don't have that. It's going to ask for a date of birth, the sire and dam's name. That is a star. It asks for that. So that's a required field. So in the case where you have a dog, you're single registering an American Feist that you has unknown lineage, you don't know who the sire and the dam is, that's perfectly fine. Those fields are required. So if you just put NA in there, that will make that so you can go on to the next step. But you have to put something in there. So just put unknown or X or something that you don't know. You have to have something there. Once you've done that, you hit at the bottom of the page, you hit the next button. That takes you to page 3. And this is the page where you're going to download, take pictures of your dog, your 3 photos of your dog, or if you have a pedigree to pull in, you can put in multiple documents, into the same file. So that's where you do that on page 3. You'll want to do that. And again, if you're using a cell phone to do this, you can take pictures of your dog while you're doing this and download it right there, or take pictures of your pedigrees that you have. Otherwise, you'll want to take those first, save them into your computer, and then go to your files and pull those in on page 3. You'll see one of those folders on this page 3 is a required field that asks for proof of registration. Since it's technically not required to have proof for an American Feist, simply drag something into that required field. It can be a photo, or you can take a sheet of paper and write hi on it, or whatever you want. Take a picture of that and put that in there. It's going to require you to put something in there so it allows you to go on. That's required for the mountain Feist and treeing Feist. They have to have a pedigree, but the American Feist does not. So just put something in there just to let it, to manipulate it, I guess, so to speak. After you've done that, you're ready to move on to the next step, and which is page 4. And this is where you're going to choose your pedigree type. Like I mentioned before, the most common is a 3-generation pedigree, but it allows you to choose a 4-generation pedigree. I think it's $4 more. Just keep in mind, if you don't provide a dog with 4 generations of pedigree, that's all for naught because the dog doesn't have that in the system to put on the pedigree. But you have to choose one of those options. The lowest one, the $30 one, is the 3 generation. Here from this page, there's also other pedigree types for additional fees, or you have the option for exhilarated services like next day air, or tracking that comes with a more of a fee, or comes with a fee with it. And keep in mind, next day air is only at the time when we get it. If you choose next day air, it's going to be done the next day. So that's an option. Some folks want to have their papers right away, and it's an option you have there. And finally, there's also some other things like a UKC binder that we have that UKC sells that you can put your dog papers in, and dog-related items like that are pretty nice, actually. Talking about a binder, I have one that I've had for 15 years, and it's just a good thing to keep dog papers in and keep all your things together. The last page, once you've done all that, you've selected your pedigree type, hit next again at the bottom of the page, and it's going to take you to your last and final page, which is for payment of whatever it is that you got. And it will show, just like in your cart, each individual item that you selected with the total amount for those items, or the amount for those items, and then it totals everything up, and then it obviously asks for your credit card information. And once you've done that, and unless your card declines, it is going to send you a receipt that will confirm and verify that your registration went through. So if you get a receipt back, and check your junk mail or your spam mail or something if you don't see it in your regular email within a short period of time, it will tell you if your card declines or what have you. But if you get an email back with a receipt, so to speak, that means it went through. You don't need to check with UKC to see if it went through. That should be your confirmation of such. The payments that are done online, UKC does not even touch that. That goes directly, is all automated. We don't touch it. We don't see it, anything. So if it went through, you're going to see that. You might see that payment come out on your end in your account before your papers are processed. So that's why it took it right away, versus it might take up to 7, 10, 14 days for UKC to process it. But hopefully sooner than that. So, and finally, what is something that will hold up your process of your online registration? One of them might be insufficient pictures or non-legible pedigrees. So when you take a picture, just make sure you hover your phone right over top. Don't take your picture away from it out to a table where your pedigree lies. Put your phone over top of it and take a good clear picture as close as you can, and hold still so it's legible. It'll be legible, and same with pictures. So that's something that might hold up the process. When they get to it, they're going to have to contact you and say, hey, we need better pictures or what have you. So kind of pay attention to that. Make sure your pictures are decent. But other than that, it's a pretty painless and easy process and an efficient way to get your dog single registered. And you can always reach out to me, even in hunting ops, Alan Gingrich. And my email address is agingrich@ukcdogs.com. Shoot me your phone number or something to call you to help you with this process during business hours. Our business hours are 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. each day at United Kennel Club, and be happy to help anybody who needs any help. But with that, that's the registration process, and hopefully that will help our folks go through that. So there you go. All right, Vance. Hey, we've talked about a lot of things here, and I hope folks will find this informative and educational here. And I'm excited about this, and I know you are. And we've already registered at least 2 dogs. And I've kind of saved a dog up that I didn't have a lineage on myself, and it probably would have met the Mountain Feist or Treeing Feist requirements, but I don't have a pedigree. So I already registered little Chili. She's going to be the first one here, but I'm pretty excited about it. And so she's going to be an American Feist. But you know what? I'll give you the final thoughts here before we close out this podcast. But before I do that, Vance, I want to thank you and your whole crew, your board, everybody that was involved with putting this together here. You did a fantastic job with getting everything put together. I'm so happy that it worked out, and I'm really excited about what this might the potential for this. But I will let you close out our podcast here, and just thank you and your guys, though.
Thank you. And we'd like to thank UKC for working with us on it. It could have been a no, and I know you had to present it to the breed or the breed group that recognizes the breed, and there was a lot of phone calls made over that. And mostly, I really want to thank the guys that kept it under wraps. There was like really the 6 of us, and then there was like another 4 to 5 people I consulted with that were just old sage type hunters and guys that were really good. And it's not about me. It's really about the program and the Feist thing. I'm not a dog breeder. I'm not really a stud dog guy. I'm just a hunter. And most of our board, that's what they are. They're guys that like to compete and like to hunt and like to raise squirrel dogs. And none of this would have been done without a fantastic board. They were just an awesome bunch of guys, and UKC was great to work with. And hey, give it a shot. Read the topics that we put out. We put them out in the National Feist Association, on Plante's Feist, on the American Feist Association, which is our home Facebook page. We have a few kinks to work out on the Facebook page, but we're getting through it. And you can call any of the board members. We all have the same information, and we all speak with the same voice. We're a team, and if you need anything, give one of us a call, send us a private message. And thank you to UKC for recognizing this. It's kind of a big deal.
Thank you for listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast. Be sure to give us a follow so you don't miss any of our new episodes or content.